Hi, I'm Jenny, and in this video I want to get down to the bottom of an issue that seems to pop up sooner or later in every watch-related conversation. What's wrong with TAG Heuer watches? I don't know about you, but I haven't been in this watch game or on this earth for long enough to have lived through all the presumed ups and downs of TAG Heuer. And so whenever the brand and the watches come up, I am left with just, shrugging my shoulders and telling people that I myself have never owned the TAG Heuer, but that I really like their design on some watches. And it's not like people bring up TAG Heuer in a neutral kind of way. It's not like they say, hey Jenny, what are your thoughts on TAG Heuer? It's almost always something along the lines of, hey Jenny, why does everybody seem to hate TAG Heuer so much? That got me thinking, given their recent releases, the fact that they have been around for more than just a couple of decades, and their pioneering role when it comes down to mechanical watch manufacturers who dare to enter smartwatch territory, how come that there seems to be an overwhelming amount of people online who refuse TAG Heuer categorically? And for those interested, the beautiful vintage Heuer that I have with me in this video has been kindly lent to me by Max from videorotfuß.de. He's my go-to source for pre-owned watches, and he let me film this 1940s Heuer with a stunning Valjoux caliber for you. And if you're interested in it, I will link his website down below for you in the description box so you can browse his offers online. So every weekend during the season when I was in elementary school, our flat was filled with that noise. Yep, my dad watched every qualifying and every race. And even back then, I remember how the TAG Heuer logo stood out to me. Almost the entire racetrack was plastered with it. Cars had the logo on it, and it was also featured on that timetable thing that popped up during the race. So to me, TAG Heuer, even though I didn't know what it was at the time, has always been connected to high-end motorsports races and cars. And so when I got more into mechanical watches, the first thing of TAG Heuer that I saw was their ad with Cara Delevingne on it, with the hashtag "Don't Crack Under Pressure." And honestly, I was kind of surprised. I mean, fair enough, Cara Delevingne is absolutely stunning and a successful supermodel, but I couldn't figure out how that is somehow connected with what TAG Heuer means to me. And I think here is where we can find one of the first polls that seem to hold up the shitstorm tent that seems to loom over TAG Heuer. It's the disconnect between how people deeper into the hobby perceive TAG Heuer given their strong motorsport or sport background in general and their recent marketing. And there's a video made by TAG Chronicle that I will link for you down below that went more into depth about this. But the main point is that TAG Heuer's marketing strategy seems to aim at the biggest group of people, to everyone who wants to wear a watch, by using brand ambassadors that are more linked to the general, like hip and cool lifestyle situation, like Cara Delevingne, for example. And I'm the last person who is going to blame a company for wanting to profit. I mean, that's kind of the spirit of it. But personally, I think that this route of marketing is not sustainable in the long run and might be more harmful than we think to TAG Heuer's brand heritage in the end. If they keep aiming for a bigger group, they might be losing their core fans, undermining their basis, But let's get right to my next point on this. So the next, let's say, poll again is something that Christian from the Theo&Harris YouTube channel has brought up on one of his recent videos that I will link for you down below, which I think sums it up pretty great. It's the general, and when I say general, I mean watch enthusiasts' perception of the different identities TAG Heuer seems to portray. And I want to give you an example here. I think we all have our different personas depending on who we are with or talking to. I mean, I know I have my phone voice, or when I hang out with my very good friends, I might act a bit different than when I'm around people that I do not know very well. But in general, I think most of our different personas in different social settings have a common thread and are just parts of who we are depending on the situation. Ideally, people won't say that you seem like a completely different person when you switch groups, but more so things like, oh yeah, she or he is more this or that when you get to know them better, But with TAG Heuer, it seems that these brand personas don't really mesh together. And Christian had a very good point when he put it that way. There are basically 3 different TAG Heuer identities or personas. So there is a Heuer identity, which reflects TAG Heuer's rich brand history, their heritage, and their achievements from the past. Then there's the TAG or TAG Heuer identity, which sort of seems to represent everything that is going wrong with the brand currently. Since TAG bought Heuer during the quartz crisis, people are quick to blame them for allegedly ruining the brand and its core values by focusing on more affordable quartz pieces that allegedly lack in design and quality, basically claiming that they did everything for a quick sale without taking care of the quality issues. And last but not least, there is the Jean-Claude Biver TAG Heuer, which represents the newfound hope in the brand and its future, as he's not only very well respected and very successful in what he did and still does, but he also had a substantial influence on the conception of recent watches from TAG Heuer. And I think you can already tell what the point here is. I know the saying goes, if you stand for nothing, you will fall for everything. But I think in this case, it's more a, if you stand for everything, you will fall for everything kind of situation. If TAG Heuer tries to please everyone, they end up pleasing only very few, I think. And I'm not saying that this is actually the case here. Like I said, I have never owned a TAG Heuer, but as it is with the internet nowadays, everything stays on it forever. There's always going to be traces of people shit-talking TAG Heuer for their issues online, no matter if it's justified or not. And so for my last point that I want to make, I am willing to put myself out there and say people just love to hate. And what's easier than to hate on something a lot of people already seem to disagree with anyways? I think we're all guilty of that. I remember how I got my first Game Boy. It was a hand-me-down from one of my cousins, you know, the big square grey ones. And I felt like the luckiest girl in the world. The first game I played was, of course, Pokemon. And one of the first choices you have to make is not only deciding on a name for your in-game character, but you also have to choose between a Bulbasaur, a Charmander, and a Blastoise. Though it felt like the hardest decision of my life so far, I knew that I was never going to pick Bulbasaur simply because I knew that almost every one of my friends had a strong dislike for that poor little thing. And even until this day, I cannot tell you why. But I was happy to jump on the bandwagon and go for Blastoise because I was too lazy to really question why or where the dislike was coming from. Though this is a very off-topic story, it helps to understand what I mean when I say that people love to hate. It's easier to agree with a seemingly big and loud group of people than disagree and stand alone or only with a few by your side. That's just human and just the way it is, I guess. But as someone who might just, start out digging a bit deeper into watches, it's easier to agree on the common notion that TAG Heuer is crap instead of taking the time and doing your own research and actually trying on the watches for yourself. All in all, I think we can all agree on the fact that generalizing something is rarely a good thing. There's always nuance to an issue. To me, TAG Heuer is a brand with many facets, a lot of great history, a great origin story, but also with flaws and issues. So basically, like most things out there, I've read about the issues in quality online and I've heard about revision and these like service horror stories, but I can also see and read about people who have been happily wearing and loving their TAG Heuer watches for years and years without any issues. And I'm not saying that those quality issue claims are all made up. I'm sure it's something they should look into, but moaning about design and concepts is ultimately a subjective issue, and as always, the consumers are going to vote with their money and the most profitable designs or ideas are naturally going to move forward, ideally. TAG Heuer is such an interesting brand and definitely not something you should just categorically dislike because you've read something on a forum board a couple of weeks ago. I mean, compared to some others, TAG Heuer has a great website and incredible brand history, and I think they also show courage in pursuing their smartwatch collection. Though it's not something that I am into, I think we can all appreciate their spirit and the will to explore more things. And so that makes the end of my video for today. As always, this is just what I think and have thought about. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what anyone says about your watch or the watches that you like. I think the best watch in the world is always the one that you end up wearing the most and enjoying the most, and that's just it. So what about you? What is your take on the TAG Heuer situation? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below, and also let me know which Pokemon you chose in the beginning, because I think that's going to be very interesting to see. As always, thank you so much for watching this video today, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.